Good evening, everyone. I'm here this evening to share with us my experience as it relates to dealing with issues with the breast. I remember as if it was yesterday going to Jamaica for Christmas and deciding that when I was there, I would have a procedure done to get a lump removed. This was not my first experience dealing with a lump. I'd had a lumpectomy previously, so when this situation arose, I just thought it was pretty much the same thing as what happened before. So in my mind, it was business as usual. I went to Jamaica, had my procedure done, passed my holiday as usual, and then I returned to the Turks and Caicos where I was working at the time. I was waiting on the doctor to get back to me with what the histology results were. After waiting for what I thought was a reasonable period, I hadn't heard from the doctor. So one Friday evening, as I was preparing for the Sabbath, I decided to call his office. When I called his office, he was in office and I was able to speak with him, and he was like, the results were cancerous. I'm like, what? I was shocked, to say the least, because I did not expect in my wildest imagination that I would have to be contending with that issue while I was working in Turks and Caicos. Subsequently, I had to go on sick leave. I was off work for several months, and I went back home to Jamaica to get treatment. What I learned through the experience were several things. We have to decide how we are going to be coping with the different challenges that we face. Happiness deals with what is currently happening, but joy is much deeper. It's something that transcends what is immediately happening in our lives. And I made a decision that I was going to choose joy. Each day that I woke up, I was going to embrace joy and embrace each moment, because the next day was never promised to me. As I went through my different procedures, operations, and so forth, I found that I ended up encouraging persons a lot of times because persons had no idea as to what to say to me. There were some persons who didn't visit me because they weren't sure what they were going to say to me. But I had a very strong support system. I am very grateful for my friends and my family. And they were able to get me through those moments when things were rough. And that's one of the things that I want us to remember as we think about supporting persons who are faced with problems as it relates to their breast. Sometimes we end up asking questions that are not nice. They're not polite. And outside of not being polite, persons who are going through these situations have a lot on their plate in the first place. And when we end up asking these questions, we end up making life a lot more difficult for them. We could offer support, whether by meals, whether by praying for them. And a lot of times, all that is required is just that ministry of presence, that you're there and you take your cues from the person so that you're able to just say what needs to be said when it needs to be said. And if I've learned anything else from this experience, is that we are not defined by the presence or absence of disease. We are not defined by the size of our breasts or whatever is happening with our breasts, whether we have a breast or not. We are defined by who we are in Christ. And if we remember that we're defined by who we are in Christ, half of the problems that we have as it relates to interacting with persons who have issues or disabilities would be negated, because we would see them as who they are in Christ, not a label, not tags that we have put on them based on our conception of things, but we'd see them as special, treasured, and loved. As men and women, it's important for us to practice breast self-examination. I've had the experience where I was able to know what was happening in my breast because I practiced breast self-examination. As wives and mothers, know that your breast was yours before it became your husband's, before it became your child's, and it will always be yours. And if you don't take care of it, you cannot expect somebody else to take care of it. Practicing breast self-examination. Getting our relevant tests such as mammograms and ultrasounds. Eating right. Exercising. And generally practicing good self-care goes a long way in ensuring that we all have good breast health. Let us work towards ensuring that we take good care of ourselves, because when we take good care of ourselves, we will take good care of our breasts as well. After all, that's our duty as God's stewards. I thank you.